Welcome to our video series introducing website creation. In this video, we'll begin building a functioning web page. In this video, I'm going to dive straight into using Composer productively. Rather than just talking you through all the basics step by step, what I'll show you here is a step-by-step demonstration of how I could create a web page that I could get live on the internet, that I could put live on the web. And even if you aren't familiar with the concepts yet, if you just follow along with this in Composer, you'll be able to create your first web page too. And actually, this web page could easily be part of a website. Now, I should mention that this page I'm going to put together is quite a basic page. It's probably not going to win any web graphic design awards, but I've often used it myself and I find that it works quite well. It's easy to put together, it's easy for visitors to use, to navigate around, and it looks professional enough. Okay, so we start with a blank page, and then what I do is insert a table. You may be familiar with the concept of tables, and it's effectively the same concept as tables in Microsoft Word. If you aren't familiar with the concept, a table in Composer on the web, it's basically a container for information on your page, and it helps structure your page, how it looks. But just before we do that, let me give you an important side note. Okay, I've brought up the display settings for Windows, and a point you have to bear in mind when doing any web pages is what screen resolution are people seeing your page in. Obviously, the resolution they choose depends generally on the size of their monitor. So here, the basic setting is 800 pixels wide by 600 in height. And I would say that's fairly common. There are also a lot of other settings, such as that, for example, 960 by 600, but I'd say that's less common. I'd say 1024 by 768 pixels is quite common. You can find out the statistics on this just by searching Google, for example, and also once you start getting visitors and using traffic statistics software or a traffic statistics service such as Google Analytics. And if you search for Google Analytics, you can find out more details on that. Or if your web host offers you website statistics so you can see who's visited, what types of people are visiting, it also tells you what their screen resolution is. And you might find out what's the most common screen resolution for your visitors. And the settings do go a lot higher, but when you're working with 2000 by 1500 pixels, you really should have a very big monitor, or otherwise you're going to be squinting to see anything. Anyway, that's important to keep in mind, and I'll show you why now. So let's cancel that and go back to Composer. To Table, Insert Table, and let's go with 3 rows. 3 rows and 2 columns, and you see you can choose width of 100% of the window, but that means that whatever width setting the person viewing has, or whatever size screen the person viewing has who's viewing the web page, the width of the table, the width of the content container will fill the screen. And for people with very large screens, this could mean that you'll have very long lines of text, which makes them difficult to read. So I often suggest not using this setting. Instead, I specify a pixel width of the table of, in this instance, let's go with 750 pixels wide. So we have 3 rows, 2 columns, 750 pixels wide, and the border, I make an invisible border, so 0 for the border. And if we go to Advanced Edit, Cell Padding. Cell padding is the space between the edge of the table and the text within it. If you don't have any cell padding, all the text will be right up against the edge of the table, which will give it a very cluttered look and make things very difficult to read. So cell padding of 10, 15, or 20 is often fine. So let's choose cell padding of 10. So you just choose cell padding here. You see it says Attribute, Cell Padding, Value 10. Okay, and that's all done, so let's OK that. There's our table. Now, just to demonstrate something important, if you go to Format, Page Colors, and Background, and OK, Reader's Default Colors, don't set colors in Page. If we customize the colors on the page and change the background color of the page to, just click on it and you can choose anything. Let's choose a blue. Okay, and you see that it gives you a little preview. Let's OK that. And you see we have a problem. The page has a blue background, but also so does the table. So the text, let's type in, this is my text. Dark text on a dark background is obviously difficult to read. So what I suggest is that if you just double-click within the table, double-click, you bring up the Table Properties box. Go to the Table tab, and here you get a lot more options you can choose among. What I often do is Table Alignment Center, to put it in the center of the screen. That's recommended. And OK, background color is currently transparent. You see, page color shows through. Let's change that to white. And for your interest, it tells you here the HTML value of any color you choose, which may be useful to know at some point. So the white is the hash or pound symbol, and then 6 Fs. And on the other extreme, black is, and okay, that's not black. It looks like black. But there we go, this one's black, bottom left. Top left is white, so bottom left black. And black is hash, pound sign, and 6 zeros. So let's go back to white and OK that. And there we go. Our table is now in the center, and the table has a white background. Next, what I would do is double-click here, anywhere here in this column, in the left column, Cell, Selection Cell, Width of. Let's go with width of 200 pixels. And OK. OK, so now our left column has a width of 200 pixels, and the right column is the rest. So 750 pixels wide minus 200 leaves 550 pixels in the right column. And the reason this column is wider is because the main content of the page goes here, whereas on the left I was simply going to add a navigation menu. Okay, and here you can see how cell padding works. There's a gap between the edge of the table and the text. If we just double-click anywhere within the table, and again, go to the Table tab and Cell Padding. Let's make it 0. And OK. You see, the table becomes a lot more bunched up and a lot more difficult to read. So, Cell Padding, if I just double-click again, it's suggested Table tab, Cell Padding of 10 pixels in this instance. And the border is invisible, so these borders appear here, but if we go to Preview, the borders disappear. You can see how that looks. Let's go back to normal view. You can, of course, if we double-click again, and Table tab, border 1 pixel, OK, and then back to Preview, and OK, you can see how that looks. That's how the table looks when you've specified that the borders are 1 pixel wide, and in this case, they're black. You can even change the color of the border, but I won't talk you through that now. Anyway, let's go back to normal view. Double-click again. And let's go with let's make the border transparent again. So 0, or invisible, I should say. 0, and OK that. Then preview. And that's how it looks. You see that the table helps structure the content within the page. Rather than having the text just go from left to right and left to right, margin to margin, the table helps you choose how wide the content of the page should go, and whether it should appear on the left or the right, or be centrally aligned within the page. And also, you can break it up into columns, which is very beneficial, as you'll see. So, back to normal view. And OK, this is part 1 of the step-by-step tutorial on creating your Composer web page.